Hi, Jesse. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you on.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be on. So
So, how have things been going this year so far?
it's been good. This year's been a little crazy because I have a newborn in the house. You might hear him periodically upstairs. But yeah, it's been really good. It's uh, been a big change, but a good change.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that in a little bit. So, we'll get into that. So, let's get into your music. So, I'm really excited to dive into your music and your songwriting because I really love your sound and what you're doing, and I think it's really cool. So, how did you get into music in the first place?
Honestly, I've kind of always been involved with music. My mom sang karaoke when we were kids, and she would take my twin brother and I to like karaoke bars, and eventually it led to her getting us a guitar that we had to share because we didn't have a lot of money or anything. So she thought like, oh, maybe if I get them a guitar, then they won't want to be in sports. So we didn't play a lot of sports. My brother played soccer, but I didn't really play many sports. I just did music. So that was kind of the trade off.
Does your brother still do music, or is it just you?
He does a little bit. Like he's a great songwriter. He lives in Ottawa. He's a fire systems technician and a pipe fitter, so he's
Okay.
pretty successful at that. And uh, so he writes periodically whenever he comes down to visit me, but he doesn't play or anything much.
And before, like when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you do music for like television and movies as your day job.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Bopper Music, and what we represent independent artists from across the globe. So our catalog is very good quality music. Every independent artist that we rep is trending, and everything's pre-cleared. So we get to work with some cool brands, and it's cool. The sync side of the business is there's it's a $12 billion industry, so there's tons of money there. So it's a cool gig.
Do you get to slide your songs in there?
I do occasionally, not as much as I'd like to, but it's really good, especially for my songwriting side of things, because I see the briefs that come in and I see what they're looking for and kind of the trends. So it's good to kind of follow what's going on.
Nice. So let's get into some of your music. So you picked three songs, so three of your songs and three songs that have inspired you or influenced you in some way. And the first song you picked was one of yours, which is your latest single called Before It Was a Memory, which I really love. And I really love the nostalgic vibe to it. I think you really nailed that. um,
Thanks.
so, what's the story behind the song?
This I absolutely love this song, and it's so funny because I started working. I've worked with Adam Newcomb for a long time. He's produced a lot of my music, but before I got signed to Vibe City, I started a regular Friday co-write with Daryl Scott and Adam Newcomb, uh, and that was one of the first songs that we wrote, and I just loved it. I sent it to Songtown at the time because it was before I got signed, and Marty Dodson and Clay Mills loved it. So then when I got signed, I tried to get our plugger to pitch it, and she wasn't really into it.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so I said, okay. So we pitched it around Nashville a bunch, and it wasn't getting the bites that we thought it would. So I was like, screw it, I'm putting it out. So we put it out, and everybody that we send it to, they're like, that's a great song. So, sometimes I really hope in this case, our publishing companies and stuff are wrong on songs, and I really hope they are with this one. So,
I think they are. And I mean, like, from a publishing standpoint, and like with songs that you think are going to do well, like, don't. And then sometimes the songs that you don't think are going to do well do really well. And everybody likes different things. So,
I joke about it all the time because I'm like, if I walked in the door with Fancy like, and not being like Walker Hayes or anything. If I walked into the door with that song, would they think it was good? You know, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where you never really know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I love that song. We just filmed a music video last night for it,
Oh,
so
cool. When will
it,
that be out?
I don't have the date
No
yet.
idea. Okay. Well,
It'll be early March.
nice. Look for that.
Yes.
So, all you listening, be sure to look out for that music video. So, I'll get to the song. So, here is Before It Was a Memory. I really love the line in that song, living in the moment before it was a memory. And I think that really kind of just sums up life. It's just moment to moment, and then now they're memories.
It's so hard because, like, as a songwriter, I find that you're trying to write for TikTok, and writing for TikTok is trying to write lyrics where you're giving somebody something, right? Like, that's what TikTok is all about, is like giving the audience value.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that song does it well. I just need to figure out how to do it on TikTok. But
Darn TikTok.
no, it's a grind, that TikTok.
Yes. So, kind of going into more of your songwriting, how did you start songwriting in the first place?
Well, when I was a young kid, um, my brother and I started a rock band, and we just wrote our own songs, and they weren't good. Um, but my mom always listened to country, and that's kind of what we gravitated towards. So I would have been in like grade 7 or grade 8. I started to write some country songs, and then it just evolved into me wanting to be a country artist. So I would always just write my own stuff, um, and then it was like 2016, 2017. I heard more and more people being like, I don't know if you're going to be good enough to be an artist, but your songwriting is really good, so you should focus on that more. And I was always like, no, no, I'm going to be an artist. Um, but then I started to realize that I'd rather write for other artists more than perform. So I always tell everybody now I'm a songwriter first. I still like to perform and do the artist thing, but I love writing songs, and I love helping another person like say their message. It's so gratifying, and it's really cool.
Nice. Do you go down to like Nashville to write, or do you write online or locally?
Um, a little bit of everything. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the things have been online. I was supposed to be in Nashville at the end of last year, but my wife was very pregnant, and so I'm planning on being back down there in April. So I'm looking forward to that because a lot of people in Nashville are kind of back to writing in the room and stuff
Yeah.
again, and it's a little bit harder to write on Zoom, but I still write on Zoom almost every day. So,
You gotta make it work. It's nice that we have the internet, so we can do all these things.
and the pandemic is to thank for that. Like, I remember writing on Skype before the pandemic, and it was tough. Now you write on Zoom. Zoom is almost as easy as writing in the room with someone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zoom is definitely better for all this stuff, I think.
Yeah. What even happened to Skype? I think Skype is just gone.
Yeah, we just got rid of it. We just pretend it doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Um, who would you love to cut one of your songs? Like, what would be the ultimate artist that would sing one of your songs?
The ultimate artist to cut one of my songs would be, I would say, like Keith Urban or Jake Owen.
Nice.
Um, we've been writing a lot towards George Strait. George Strait is starting to look again.
Oh, okay.
So we pitched like Daryl Scott and I write almost every day, and we've been like honing in our George Strait um, songs. And so we did that for a bit, and now we're on to like Blake Shelton, trying to pitch to him a lot. But Keith Urban is kind of, I like Keith Urban. I've always been a big Keith Urban fan. So
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I saw him live a few years ago in Toronto, and he was so good.
so good. Like the guy can play anything.
Oh yeah. So, kind of speaking of co-writing, the next song you have for us is "Tell You Everything" by Robin Ottolini, who's really blowing up, and she got a major label deal recently, which is great. I love her. She's really funny on TikTok and like great personality.
That's what I love about her is she's so authentic, and
Yeah.
what you see is exactly what you get from her. Like she's the best.
So, what's the story behind that song, and how did you guys end up connecting to write that?
Oh, man, Robin is one of my best pals, and it's so funny because we always crossed paths at like shows, but then it was a CMAO uh, one year, and I went with Mackenzie Lee Meyer and Justin Tay, and Robin was just like hanging around, and every time I saw her, I'd be like, "What are you doing here? Like, don't you have your own room?" And we'd just riff off each other, and it led to like us writing the week after, and then we just started writing all the time. And she was like going through a breakup, and we were writing a lot of sad songs, and it was like funny because you're like writing sad songs, and then you're writing songs where you're like chirping a dude. And this one week, she messaged me, and she's like, "I need to write." I'm like, "Okay, come on by." And she was like happy. She's like, "I met this guy named Steven," and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like in the span of a week. And so anyway, we wrote "Tell You Everything," and she just fell more and more for this guy, and I'm like, this song is special to her, and yeah, so she told me that she was gonna cut it, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we're still writing. A few weeks later, she's like, "Man, you gotta check out TikTok. I'm like starting to get a bit of a fan base." She's like, "I got 4,000 followers and blah blah blah." I'm like, okay, so I'm checking it out. Well, we had a gig the weekend after together, and she's like, "Dude, I'm blowing up on TikTok." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She showed me her TikTok, and she had like 25,000 fans or whatever. I'm like, "Oh my God, Slack, maybe I should get on this." Uh, Not even 2 weeks later, she went like viral on TikTok. Over 1 million streams overnight or something. It was
Oh
crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
Was that how long between like were you writing that song and her cutting it? Like how much time?
She had the song all like I had the song done
Mhm.
or she got signed
Okay.
because it was going to be her next release, and then she got signed, and I'm like, is this song coming out? Because she loved the song, and then she said, yeah, it's coming out, it's going to radio, and I was like, oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was her first single signed to Warner Music. Well, besides F-150, but
Yeah.
F-150 was kind of already out. But yeah, so that was a pretty special moment, and it's awesome that I got to share that with Robin, and I'm will be forever grateful for that. So
Aw, that's great. Well, congratulations to you as well for the success on that song.
thank you.
So here is the acoustic version of "Tell You Everything" by Robin Ottolini. The acoustic version of that song is so good. I really love
Oh, that's why I had to include that
it. Yeah.
because that takes the song to a whole nother level.
Hmm.
I never even got to hear that before it came out.
Oh no.
Oh, I should have sent that to you. I'm like, no, no, that was the best surprise I've had, especially with that song. So
Awesome.
it was really cool.
So, as you mentioned earlier, you recently became a dad. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And you've been posting some dad jokes on TikTok, which I find very entertaining. So, give me your best dad joke.
Right now?
Yeah, if you can think of one.
Ah,
It's okay if you can't.
you should have prepared me.
I'm sorry.
How many apples grow on a tree?
I don't know.
All of them.
They're just so like simple and like clever.
Yeah.
I do appreciate them. That was a good one. Thank you.
No
So
problem.
has becoming a father changed like your outlook on life or your music career at all so far?
Um, Definitely. I feel like as a songwriter more than anything, like Oh man, when I found out I was going to be a dad, I went through a phase where I said to Daryl, I'm like, I need to stop listening to songs about becoming a dad because I was like happy and scared, and I'd be listening to these songs. I'd be like in my studio crying, and
No.
um, but I feel like it just puts more things in perspective, and you're a bit more inspired. And uh, now that I work during the day and I write at night, I try to make sure that every song that I write and submit to my publisher is a good song. Where before I would write two or three songs a day, and a lot of them were just bad. Um, so you just put, you know, a bit more pressure on yourself, but in a good way. So I think it's definitely going to change things, and for the better. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, kind of leading into that, the next song you picked was one of yours called Who You're Gonna Be, which I read was about your son and wondering who he's gonna be when he comes into the world. So, what's the story behind that song?
I had this idea, and I'm like, who should I write this idea with? And I messaged my publisher, or one of my publishers, Marty Dodson, because his songs are so simple but so great. Like he had a number one or two number ones with Billy Currington, "Let Me Down Easy" and "Must Be Doing Something Right." And just listening to those lyrics and on how relatable and honest they were, but then uh, a super clever line like those deep blue need you eyes. I'm like, Marty would be the perfect person to write that with and share that moment because it's a very personal song for me. So um, I had the idea. I messaged Marty and Daryl, and I said, "This is the idea," and we wrote the song in like an hour.
Nice.
And it meant a lot to me. I wrote a lot of songs that were about becoming a dad, so that one made the cut, and there's some that my publisher is pitching around. So maybe another one will pop out of nowhere or something. Who knows? But,
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's such a beautiful song that you're going to hear shortly. Well, now, we'll hear it now. um, so let's get to that song. So here is Who You're Going to Be. So again, it's such a beautiful song. And I love that you have that to like share to your son when he gets a little bit older and can hear it. And
yeah, when he's got more than just clown music rolling around in his head.
well, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. I know I've been saying to a lot of people, I'm like, I'm excited for him to he like hear it and understand it.
hmm
But I'm excited for him to be embarrassed about it. And then when he's like my age, he's gonna be like, "Oh, that was a special moment that my dad did for me," which, you know, my dad never did anything like that for me. So,
Neither did mine. And it's nice to say that you had a song written about you.
yeah.
A nice song written about you, not like one of those breakup songs or
Yeah, exactly.
um so you were part of the Boots and Hearts 2021 Emerging Artist Showcase.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Boots and Hearts is a huge country festival in Ontario. So what was that experience like? Because it was also kind of in the middle of the pandy. So
Yeah, the panty. Andy the pan. Yeah. Honestly, so cool. I was super grateful for that experience. Um, because it was during the pandemic, it was definitely a scaled back version. So it wasn't like, you know, the big boots and hearts that you dream of playing. But it was still amazing. And we got the wild card spot. So that to me was almost more important than playing because it really showed that I have a big audience that supports me and helped me get there. And it was definitely a very cool moment for my music career.
that's awesome. And I think like having the fan vote is probably most important because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
I know if I wanted to grind and do the work and harass people, I know I could boost any numbers after that competition because I messaged a lot of people when I was like, "Hey, can you help me out with that?" I pulled every favor I could have pulled, so which it was good. So
Did you meet anyone famous at Boots and Head?
I did. I met Elise Saunders and Jacqueline Kenyon and Mike Whiteside. No, I'm just naming everybody else that were.
Yeah. We want any
Um,
big stars.
no,
No?
not really. They didn't really have like it was big, but I think the headliner. I forget who the headliner was that night. It was David Boyd James, I think,
Hmm.
was the first night. So I know David. So
Yeah,
it
he
was really cool because almost everybody that was in the competition I already write with. So it was meeting up with your friends. It was awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
So, kind of like on the topic of country music, what does country music mean to you?
It means everything. That's such an interesting question. Um, yeah, it just means everything. It's literally what my life is about. Like, I personally think it's the best genre of music. I'm not saying that because that's my primary genre that I work in, but it's so relatable to everybody, and it's one of the only genres left besides like folk and um, I'm trying to think of like rock doesn't even really tell a story, but country
Americana,
is
roots.
always telling a story,
Hmm.
and I like that.
Yeah.
Um, I also like conversational songs, and I find that the most in country music, like opposed to, I don't know, like pop music does that a little bit, but pop music can do that in a bit of an edgy way, which I understand why it's so popular, right?
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, E, F, U. If you did that in the country world, would it work? I don't know.
I don't
Ask
know.
Ottolini. She'd probably be the one to put it out. So
Yeah. If you did it right and kind of didn't make it like, well, if you're a girl, you can kind of get away with like, like the Dixie Chicks, Goodbye Earl, or Carrie Underwood, Before He Cheats, where you can get aggressive as a girl.
like I have a song right now that I wrote with Robin and two of my friends in Nashville, Dakota and Will, and they wrote Old Country Soul with the Recklows. Um,
Okay.
we wrote a song called Richard, and the
Yes.
hook is "You're such a Richard,"
Yeah.
and it's so clever. But Will posted it on TikTok, and it's like blowing up. I'm like, oh my gosh! I was shocked that it blew up with him singing it. So if a female artist cuts it, which we're trying to get a female artist to cut it, it could be a big song.
Yeah, I think so. So all you listening, go check out that TikTok, that song called Richard. It's on Jesse's TikTok page, which I'll
Yeah.
link all that stuff below anyway. And it's hilarious and it's so clever. And I don't think anyone's really done that before. So,
No, we thought that hook was really original, and
mhm.
that's when like it was Will's hook, and he messaged me saying like, "Hey, can we write this with Robin?" And I told Robin about it, and Robin's like, "Yeah." So yeah,
Awesome. Well, I hope that gets cut because I'd love to hear that like done like as a song.
I hope so too. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, so moving on to a song that you has either inspired you or influenced you. You had "Damn Good Life" by Justin Adams. So why
Yeah,
did you pick that song?
because that song is badass. Did you listen to that yet?
Yeah, I've listened to everything. Yeah.
Oh my God, that song. So I picked that song because I listen to that song every day right now because it's one of the only songs that I can get my son to sleep with.
Oh, really?
Honky Tonk Country, and I love Honky Tonk Country. So um, yeah, it's a great song. And Justin Adams is an up and comer. He's super underrated hit writer, great guy. So
Yeah, I hadn't heard of him before. You mentioned him that you wanted to play him on the show. So I'm glad that you did because found somebody new to listen to.
100%.
Awesome. Well, here is "Damn Good Life" by Justin Adams. So, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in your career?
The biggest lesson I've learned is being yourself and being authentic. I tell everybody, I say this a lot, is it took me 27 years. I just turned 30, so it took me 27 years of my life to realize that you don't need to be what everybody tells you need to be. And I feel like there's so many people in this industry that are like, who are you like? Actually, it was you that said it best on one of your TikToks when you posted something about things I like, and you're like, he's like Eric Church, Kip Moore meets Gary Allen, and I was like, that is the coolest and nicest thing I've ever heard because my song plugger in Nashville always says like, "Oh, you got a Gary Allen thing," and I'm like, I love Gary Allen. So, but I always, growing up, said, "Oh, I want to be like a Keith Urban meets Dierks Bentley." So I thought I needed to be just like them, and then it was a mixture of like a job loss, my friends, just like some deep soul searching that made me realize you just got to be yourself. And Robin Ottolini, I will bring her up again,
Yeah.
is the prime example of that. It's like she was just herself, and that's what people like. And I think that's what people can smell bullshit more nowadays than they ever can. So the more authentic you are, I feel the more successful you'll be. And we've seen it in the past. I, I feel like you're just blind to it when you're trying to impress people.
Yeah. And what are some ways that like you kind of like work towards that? Like, do you just remind yourself to be authentic, or you just stop caring what other people think, or because that can be hard to do?
Stop caring about what other people think. Like, I listen to my mentors as much as I can because I value what they say, and I try to do. I try to follow their guidance. But at the end of the day, you still got to live with yourself and do what you want to do. Um, but yeah, it was just like a big thing for me was realizing, you know, I would always have my hair spiked and I would be try to be like a pretty boy, and I'm like, man, I am just trying to be like everybody else. And I got to the point where I'm like, screw this, I'm just going to do my own thing, um, and not really give a shit about what people think. That's the best because when you do that too, more people think you're cool.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that guy's way cool because he just doesn't care.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? I think it's so important to really just work towards like not caring about what other people think, because it really stifles you and it stops you from being creative. And it's because you're always like in, like, I get in my head a lot with it. So that's something I've been working on a lot. So it's
It's
nice to hear from other people.
it's hard because you're chasing something that, like, country music has a Keith Urban.
Yeah.
Country music has a Miranda Lambert. They don't have an Elora Taylor. They don't have a Jesse Slack. But when you're trying to be a Keith Urban or a Miranda Lambert, they've already got that.
Yeah.
So they're not going to give you the time of day. I wish country music or music in general, more people in the industry would say, instead of saying, "What are you like?" saying, "Let me listen to your song," and then saying to you, "Oh, I think you need to find your own thing."
Yeah.
And try to give you examples because it's super hard. It's super difficult.
Yeah.
But you nailed it on the head with like the Eric Church, Kip
Oh,
Moore.
good.
Because I tell everybody, I'm like, if Willie Nelson and Eric Church were cousins, or they had a cousin, it'd be Jesse Slack. That's basically what I tell people. So
Yeah, I can see that. I really hear the Eric Church in your music. And like, yeah, when I was listening to that, trying to think of what to put on those things, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like who does this person sound like, to so other people can kind of like, oh, I like those artists, so I'll probably like him. So that's kind of
yeah.
why I did that.
And anybody that would listen to my previous stuff, you can tell that like over the past like 2 years, I've finally found what I'm good at and what I like,
Mm-hmm.
because I did everything that I was supposed to do you know.
Yeah, and it never works when you do it like what you're supposed to do and everybody else is doing, because everybody's doing the same thing. That's why I also like I ask artists for this podcast to come on specifically because I usually pick people that I really like and who I think are doing something kind of different. And so that's why I like your music too, because it is very you and it is different and it is will stand out against a lot of the other stuff out there.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So kind of along those lines, like what motivates you to keep going with music? Because it can be hard and
What motive? I I think I said this earlier. I just don't know any better. I'm like an old like a dog that won't quit. Um we are told so many times in this business no, and we are never told yes. Like people look for a reason not to say yes in the music industry, and that just drives me. I've had a few yeses, but I'm still waiting for that yes that I'm like, okay, I've finally gotten to the point where I'm satisfied, which I
Mhm.
don't even know if I'll ever find that. So it, I just don't. I don't know any better. I guess I don't know. I don't know anything else. And I love music, so I'm never gonna give up on it.
Well, that's a good answer. That persistency, is that a word? Persistency?
Yeah,
Persistence is so important too because like it's so easy to give up. I mean, I quit every other day. So like
everybody does.
yeah.
I think about quitting every day, but it's just one of those things where, especially like my world now, and it wasn't 3 years ago, is music. It's all music. I wake up and I'm talking to advertising agencies about, you know, songs that they're picking for their spots, and then I'm working on a marketing campaign for my single, and I'm messaging AJ about a video, and then I'm writing at night. So like my world is music, and then I go upstairs and I laugh because right now I say I'm the Our Dad, and uh, Katie and Rebel, oh, Our Dad, Our Dad.
Oh.
And I see them for an hour in the morning before I start working, and then I see them an hour at night before I go to bed. Like I'm working
Do they
nine.
come down to visit you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I work from home, so I
Yeah.
go up and I visit them, and
Nice.
yeah, it's good.
Your son also has the best name ever, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were scared. We were scared to name him that, but
Yeah.
we were very thankful and happy that we did because it's cool, and he's gonna. I think the girls are gonna dig it, or guys, whatever he's into.
Yeah.
But I think they're gonna
You're gonna
dig
be
it.
one cool kid anyway.
Yeah.
He has to be with that name. But anyway, so the last song that you picked of yours was "Same Old Samin," which took me a while to wrap my brain around that title. But so, what's the story behind that song?
Ah, okay. So I had this hook in my phone for a while, and um, like I said, Daryl and Adam and I would get together every Friday, and I'd try to save cool hooks because we got together like every Friday during the pandemic when people kind of still weren't supposed to be around each other. So we just said whatever, we didn't care, and still got together. Um, and it was so fun because we could build tracks and we would write in Adam's studio. So I had this same old same. Well, let's just do the same old same this or, and Adam's like, why don't we just like twist that hook a little bit and just say like same old salmon? Like I'm just same old salmon, and we're like, what? And it took us a little bit, and then Daryl's like, yeah, same old salmon, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. And then Daryl's like, yeah, like, well, the rest of the world's changing. I'm just over here, same old salmon. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. So then we wrote it, and uh, that was just, I'm like, I have to cut this song. It's perfect for, well, the first line of the song is I still walk my dog down the same road to the same old house to get the same dope. And I'm like, I don't think anybody will cut that, but I'll cut that. So, yeah, I love that song. And then we did an animated music video for
Yeah.
it. So super cool.
How did you guys do the animated music video? Did you like hire somebody or?
I hired this guy out of the UK, believe it or not. And he was like relatively new to making animated music videos. So I got it for like a steal of a deal. And it turned out cool. Like
Yeah.
it's different. It's gained like it helped me get a lot of more attention than I ever thought I would because I was having people call me being like, "How did you come up with the idea for that?" And I didn't. I'll give 100% of the credit to Daryl. And Daryl said, "You should do an animated music video because you can have them do things that would be physically impossible for you to do." And I was like, "That's so clever." So I give him credit. It was his idea. I just executed it and made it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a really cool music video. So again, listeners, go check it out. And that will all be linked below as well. So here is that song. Here is Same Old Samin'. All right, so we'll do 5 quick questions. They're just fun, like whatever comes to the top of your head first.
Okay,
All right, ready?
ready.
Okay. Favorite snack food?
Chips.
What kind of chips?
Right now, spicy dill pickle Miss Vicky's.
Huh. I didn't know they were the spicy version. One one place you would love to travel to.
Austin, Texas.
Hmm,
Haven't been there yet.
nice.
I was supposed to take my wife there for her honeymoon, but then I booked
Oh.
it. So
Well,
it'll make
yeah, hopefully. Well, things are opening up down there anyway, but
yes.
here in Canada is a little questionable. But favorite holiday?
Uh, it's got to be one in the summer. The Canada Day, maybe.
Canada Day. That's a new one. I haven't heard anyone say that one.
Yeah, well, it's a party holiday.
That's true.
So
And it's warm. It's like kind of one of the only ones really that's summery.
yeah,
Would you rather fly or have super strength?
super strength.
And your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. Oh, man, it's so hard because I've got so many. Uh, I've recently watched Succession.
Mm.
Succession.
Yeah, my boyfriend really liked that one. Haven't gotten into that one yet.
Oh, it's so good. Any show with like a big dynamic family is always good. You know?
Yeah. Well, where can people find you?
They can find me at my head. No.
Addresses.
At no. JesseSlack.com. Jesse Slack Music on basically all the socials. It's at Jesse Slack Music. Um, yeah, I'm on everything. You know, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Tinder. No. Yeah, anywhere.
Awesome. And I'll have all those linked below, so you can just click the link and you don't have to go search for it. And the last song you have for us is I Quit Countin' by House Whiskey.
Yes.
Why did you pick this song?
Them before?
Sorry?
Have you heard of them before?
No, I haven't heard of them before. Again, another introduction that I appreciate. So thank you.
Yeah, they're from Nashville.
Mhm.
Super cool guys. I get to write with them
Oh,
quite a bit.
nice.
And I heard of them when my brother was in Nashville. He saw them at Whiskey Jam, and he's like, "You got to hear these guys." Totally didn't listen to them much. I think I listened to their music quick. But then it was like a year later, I found them on New Music Nashville, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I love these guys!" I messaged my brother. I'm like, "You need to listen to this band," and he's like, "I told you about them a year ago. I listen to them constantly." And he was like, "I Quit Counting" and Bootstraps, and I was like, "Well, I'm writing with them next week," and I absolutely love them, and I love that song, so that's why I picked it.
Awesome. Do you have any songs that are gonna that they're gonna cut? Do you think that you've written or
Oh, maybe.
maybe?
See.
Fingers
Oh,
crossed.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, thanks so much for listening, and thanks so much for coming on. And
So much for having me.
yeah, and yeah, thanks so much for listening, and be sure to come back next week for more country music.